Why the Saints should go back to Spencer Rattler if Derek Carr is out for the season. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be discussing the question on everybody's mind. If Derek Carr is done, if his hand is fractured and the season is over, should the Saints go with Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener for the last 4 games? Now, I've had a ton of people in my comments on Twitter, all over the place, saying that the Saints should go with Spencer Rattler because Rattler didn't get a fair shake, and Rattler had a banged-up offensive line, and Rattler was throwing to Bub Means and Mason Tipton. In this video today, I'm going to try and calm some of those concerns, and I'm honestly a bit flummoxed that the conversation has taken this turn. So we're going to use Matthias after further review as the backdrop. I have skipped ahead in this video to the part about Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. So the first part is all about the Derek Carr and the actual injury, which we've covered. So, Matt, take it away, and I will react.
Now, as far as what you do moving forward with Haener or Rattler if Carr is out, there's that question. And look, let's be very clear. You had 3 games where Spencer Rattler started. In those 3 games, you averaged 15 points per game. You were not very good offensively. And yes, one of those was against the Chargers, which at the time was the best scoring defense in the NFL. You again, had 3 games. It was Tampa Bay,
Denver, and the Chargers.
Let's see. It was Tampa. Who am I forgetting?
The Broncos.
Who am I
Thursday
forgetting?
Night.
Tampa Bay Broncos. Broncos on Thursday Night Football. It's Tampa Broncos and the Chargers. You scored 27 against Tampa, 10 against Denver, and then 8 against the Chargers. That was with Rattler starting. The other 10 games with Derek Carr starting, you've averaged 24.5 points per game. Now, if you eliminate the first 2, which you can't do, but it's clearly been a dramatically different season than the first 2 games, you've averaged 19 points per game with Derek Carr outside of the first 2, which have been more the norm. 15 with Rattler. So it's not like it's been a gigantic difference. But if you do take into account the first 2 games, you're averaging nearly 10 points more per game with Derek Carr than the 3 that you didn't have.
The conversation is not, is Derek Carr better than Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener? We know that. Yes, Derek Carr is better than Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener. That has nothing to do with moving forward.
Have him. So the question now becomes Haener or Rattler if Carr can't go.
Yes.
Darren Rizzy was asked on Monday how they're going to split the reps in practice this week, but then also what goes into the decision to choose between Rattler, who started 3 times, and Haener, who's been the backup when Carr's been injured.
I got to be honest, I actually feel, I'm not trying to play the fence sitter here. I actually think both guys give us a chance to win. I think, obviously, the last time Derek was out for an extended period of time, we decided to go with Spencer. I think Jake and both guys, I think, have performed well right since the training camp. And so, I thought in that last go-around, we felt like Spencer gave us the best chance to start. And so, that's where we're going to kind of list all the pros and cons. Who are we playing? What defense? What's the game plan? Here are the weapons. And so that's all the things we're going to discuss today. We'll have a decision by that probably tomorrow.
Okay, who you're playing this week, of course, is Washington. Now, remember, in the NFL, schedule-wise, today's a recovery day. They'll all be in the building getting treatment. Tuesday is an off day in the NFL. Then they're at practice on Wednesday, and that's when we'll see the first injury report. So when he says they'll make a decision Tuesday, of course, that's when you're going to start implementing, strategizing the game plan. So Wednesday, when they're all back, boom, you're hitting the ground running with who.
By the way, there's been conversations about if Derek Carr may try and play. Ben DiNucci was signed with the Saints today, so the Carr thing is over. Carr ain't playing. All right, the second you sign Ben DiNucci, that goes ahead and tells you what they think about Carr's hand injury.
Whoever your starter is, getting all the starters reps that week. I know there's there is this feeling that maybe you need to go ahead and give Jake Haener a try because it didn't go great with Rattler when he had.
All right, this is where I'm going to jump in. I think you should start Haener. Here's why. There are 2 separate people who are going to make this decision or who are going to have a line of thinking to this decision. You've got your coaches, and then you have your front office. All right? The coaches are going to select whoever they feel like is going to help them win the game because Rizzy, Kubiak, Janoko, the entire offensive staff, whatever, are coaching for their jobs. So they're not concerned about developing anybody. They're not concerned. They're not concerned about who looks the best for the future. They're not concerned about next year. They're not concerned about any of that stuff. All right? The front office is the opposite. The front office could care less about these games. The front office understands that the season is over. The front office understands that we ain't winning the division. We're not going to the playoffs. The front office wants to see what they have in Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler. The worst possible way to look at this is, well, Spencer Rattler didn't get a fair shake because the offensive line or the receivers or whatever, and his 52% completion percentage should be blank. His, this number should be this. The results don't matter. Think about it like this, ladies and gentlemen. Do you think the front office is going to ESPN.com and going to the box score to determine how Spencer Rattler played or what they have in Spencer Rattler? They are going to the game tape and they are breaking down the all 22 from every single angle, and they are looking at his feet. They're looking at his arm slot. They're looking at his progression. They're looking at how fast he got in and out of the huddle. They're looking at how he's motioning the offensive line for protection. They're looking at audibles. They're looking at what he's picking up. They're looking at how fast the ball's coming out of his hand. The last thing they are looking at is, oh, well, we averaged 15 points a game. Oh, well, we scored 8 points. Oh, well, we had 12 3-and-outs. Oh, well, he had 190 yards passing. That is the last thing that matters. And you have to quit thinking about this as a casual fan watching the games on Sundays. You have to think about these decisions from a front office who has every resource all the time in the world to make these decisions. All right? So, with that being said, they have 3 games of game tape. Don't look so upset, Matt. They have 3 games of this, of Rattler, where they can go back, pull from. Is every play going to be usable? No, of course not. Some plays, the offensive line got destroyed. You'll throw some of those out. They have those 3 games they'll go back to look at. They have every single practice from this year. They have training camp. They have preseason. They have rookie minicamp. They have his college. They have everything, okay? You need to get this of Jake Haener. You need to get some of this with Haener. You need to get some of these reps with Haener to see what Haener's got. And I don't mean see like, oh, can he win you a game? Oh, well, maybe Jake Haener can come back and pull. I don't mean that. I mean see what he's got with, a full game plan, a week of practice, knowing he's the starter, not coming in as mop-up duty, not coming in because of an injury, and then you will have the exact same thing with Spencer Rattler you'll have this actual game tape of his feet, his arm, the arm slot, how he moves in and out of the huddle, how he changes the offensive line, how he changes the protection, who he's picking up on the defense, everything from how does he look during a play action to where is his arm slot on a 15-yard route. That's what you need. And you need to stack those two sets of film up against each other and see if you have anything. This is not a competition between Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. This is a competition between Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener and Jake Haener, because these guys aren't playing for a starting quarterback role. They're not playing for any of that. They're playing for, should they be on the roster? Are they part of the future? Because if the Saints lose a majority of these games down the stretch, which I think they will, if they go 1-3 or 0-4, Rizzy's out the door. If Rizzy's out the door, Kubiak's out the door. And if Kubiak's out the door, everyone's out the door. So you're getting a brand new coaching staff coming in, and I got a sneaky feeling that brand new coaching staff is not going to have plans for Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener. So it's going to be up to the front office to say, well, here's what we deduced. We think he's a viable backup. We think there's something there. Or we think both guys are scrubs, and let's just go ahead and move forward with your plan. So I think, going back, I'm really surprised at the amount of people who have reached out to me and have said, Spencer Rattler, he had a backup center, so he didn't get a fair chance. And, again, you're looking at the results when the results should be the last thing you're looking at. You're looking at the ESPN box score when that should be the last thing you're looking at. So you got to reframe how you're approaching this. You got to reframe what you're looking at. Now, the interesting conversation will be between Mickey and between the coaches, because their motivators are very, very different. Their reasoning is very, very different.
You started the 3 games.
I'll say one more thing here before I let Matt go. If they do go with Rattler, oh my God, that tells you they could. I mean, Jake Haener, I would feel bad for him at that point, because that means that this set of coaches has seen Rattler and they've seen so little of Haener, or they believe in so little of Haener, that they still believe that Rattler gives them the best chance to win. And if that's the case, then Haener doesn't have a chance. I think they'll go back to him, but if they did say, we think Rattler gives us the best chance, then that means what Haener's doing in practice and all of that is rough.
It's important to remember Spencer Rattler is a rookie quarterback.
Yes, true.
In the NFL, and rookie quarterbacks struggle. I mean, Caleb Williams was the number 1 pick in the draft. He's the quote-unquote transcendent talent, right? And I know that's overused, but it's something everybody says. He's the can't-miss prospect, the number 1 player. Caleb Williams right now has a QBR of 46.3 and a rating of 87.8.
Yeah, he's been bad.
He's done some pretty good things in the last few weeks in particular. But it's been a struggle bus year for Caleb Williams, as it is for most rookies. I mean, Peyton Manning's one of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
Horrible rookie year. I think he threw like 30 interceptions.
He threw more interceptions as a rookie than any player in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
And they went 3-13. It's hard in the NFL for rookie quarterbacks. You could look at Jaden Daniels, but he's the outlier. He's the exception, certainly not the rule. Look at Bryce Young. Bryce Young was miserable a year ago.
Absolute ass. Still ass.
So much so that at this year's trade deadline, we're looking going, is he a bust? Like, do they trade him at this year's trade deadline and already move on? Well, now all of a sudden in the last month, Bryce Young looks like a different player, like he's figured some things out. That's a year and a half in for Bryce Young. Rattler's 3 games in.
Shows you how bad Bryce Young is that against the Eagles, he went like, what was his final? Let me see if I can pull it up. Because his final box score, I heard all these people who were like, yeah, Bryce Young's really turning a corner. And I look at the box score, and Bryce Young's like 14 for 31 for 200 yards, and everyone's acting like he's got something figured out. Yeah, like everyone's like, Bryce Young's turned a corner. He's 19 for 34 for 191 yards, 5.6 average, an 85 QBR, and a 69 cheeky rating. Like when I saw people who were like apologizing on Twitter for their Bryce Young as cook takes, and I go and look at this, and I'm like, I don't know, guys. Like, still looks cooked to me.
So I'm not going to judge Rattler's long-term ability based on the outcome of 3 games where he was starting behind a makeshift offensive line without some of his best weapons.
Yeah, 100%. You should not care at all about the outcome of those 3 games. At all. You should care about the individual player. You should be looking at it how you look at a prospect. All right, think about when you're looking at an NFL draft prospect. Do you look at, like, when you're looking at tape, is there context of, like, if you're looking at Anthony Richardson's tape, are you looking at context of, in this game, Anthony Richardson was 13 for 27 for 144 yards? No, you don't have any context. Are you looking at Florida was 0-3 in this 3-game stretch? No, they don't show any of that, because all that you care about is the actual player. How does he look? How is he throwing? How is he progressing? How does he move around? Like, there is none of that box score watching. So why would you have box score watching now? Why would you care about 0-3? Why would you care about 15 points per game? Why would you care about any of that stuff? In the long term, like trying to deduce, like, okay, should these guys be on the roster? Should they not? We know the circumstances. We know Connor McGovern was the starting center. We know that Mason Tipton and Bub Means were the 1 and 2 wide receivers. We know it was on the road against the Chargers. We know that it was the Denver Broncos on a short week. Like, we know all that stuff. You know, we know what was going on. So that is that information is completely irrelevant. If it is completely irrelevant, you can't use it as a justification for why he should start to try and right some wrong of his 0-3 stretch.
So I don't know which direction they go here. I think from my perspective, though, I'm looking at Haener and Rattler going, okay, these coaches, this staff, see these guys every day. They see them in camp. They've seen them in games. They've seen them in game week and prep and everything. Which guy has the higher upside? Which guy do you think has the higher upside based on what you've seen? And that's who you have to start. Because if you're going to get through it with these guys, the young player struggles to get them to a point where they're maybe capable of.
See, that would make sense if these coaches were coming back. Because then it's like, yeah, okay, who's got the higher upside? These guys are who we have. But you can't say like, oh, we think blank player has the higher upside. You have no idea what you're about to be doing. Like, you have no clue what the roster is about to look like, what the system is about to be, what the playbook, the coach, the culture, the plan. You have no clue. You might be drafting a quarterback. Like, who the hell knows as far as who's got the future upside? The future upside to what? At this point, from the front office, and like I said earlier, the coaches sure as hell don't care about the future upside, because the coaches, they're worried about just being here. You are focused on grading the player. You are focused on, what grade am I giving this player? Do I think this player has a spot on the roster? Is he a backup? Whatever. You're not worried about, can we develop this guy in 1 or 2 years, and can he be a starter in the NFL? Why worry about that stuff if Ben Johnson's going to walk in here and draft Cam Ward? Then it's like, all right, well, whatever, who cares? Whatever, doesn't matter. You're not concerned about that. Now, if you're coming back as a coach, if you told me this coaching staff was coming back, I would start Rattler, because then he probably is the guy that this coaching staff wants to see more of and wants to kind of develop or whatever.
Of being your franchise quarterback, your starter in the NFL. Like, you got to get him reps and experience. But I'm not saying, oh, man, Rattler struggled for 3 games, so you punt on him and you go with Haener. I mean, he's a rookie.
Yeah, you're not punting on Rattler. I mean, you're not punting on him by not playing him.
If you still see upside, then I say, well, Rattler got that experience. He's got more experience now than Haener. You go with the more experienced backup who's been in those situations. Let's see if he can continue to progress. Now, I'll remind you, get 4 games left. And I don't know if Derek Carr is going to be able to go. But when you look at total defense of your 4 remaining opponents.
I'll give you an example. Quick metaphor. Let's say you're testing out 2 cars. Let's say you're testing out a Tesla, and let's say you're testing out a Honda. Let's say you go on day 1. You only have 2 days to test them out. Day 1, you go get the Honda. All right, it's raining. And you drive the Honda. The second day, it's blue skies. Do you go retest drive the Honda because it's like, well, it was raining, the roads were slick, whatever? Or do you say, I have a pretty good idea of what it's like to drive the Honda. I have a pretty good idea of how it feels to sit in the car, the functionality. Like, I have a pretty good idea of how it works. And do you test drive that Tesla on the second day? That's what this is. It is, you need to know the functionality, how it works, the base level, the foundation of both players, as far as Haener and Rattler. You've got that from Rattler. Does it matter that there was traffic? Does it matter that the roads were slick? Does it matter that it was, visibility wasn't great or whatever? No. No, it does not. The circumstances don't matter. I would test drive both cars.
Washington's 12th, Green Bay's 13th, the Raiders are 15th, and the Bucs are 27th. So you got 3 teams around the middle, a little better than the middle of the NFL, and then the Bucs, who are one of the worst defensively in the NFL. You get 2 games at home, including this weekend. I know there's going to be a contingent that wants to see Jake Haener out there because it didn't go great for Rattler. I'm more of the belief to say, let me see Rattler again. He got the opportunity. Now he had a chance to sit and watch. What does it look like if he gets to go again? Remember, earlier this year, Bryce Young got benched. And now he's come back from that benching. He's played better of late. I mean, Bryce Young had some Houdini plays.
Yeah, 14 for 31. Solid.
In that game yesterday against Philadelphia Eagles. So, I'm not telling you it's going to look great. But that's just where I am here on Monday, just finding out the Derek Carr injury a few hours ago. If Carr isn't able to go, I think I'm rolling with Rattler again. The coaching staff's already said they feel like he has the higher upside. He's the one that gives them the best chance to win. Let me see if that's a guy that can go make plays, having had an opportunity to start. Now watch. Give him another go. We'll see.
I will caveat this. The only way I would go with Rattler and be like, yeah, well, like what Matt's saying, as far as like, I want to see him again now that I've benched him, now that he's got some time. We didn't bench him, but now that he's had some time to watch and some time to learn, The only way I would do that is if you already have your conclusion on Haener. If you believe, like we know what we have in Haener, because he has been here a year longer. If you believe you know what you have in Haener, and you don't need to do the test drive, you don't need to do, everything I'm talking about, you don't need to get the tape on Haener, you're not interested in seeing that. If that's the case, then yeah, I mean, start Rattler. Get as much tape, get as much, scouting as you can on this guy, if you're not concerned about the other side with Haener. I'm under the belief that these guys are relatively equal. Rattler has the higher ceiling, but it's still kind of they're both dually progressing. If you are book closed, shut the book, finish the chapter, not interested on Haener, then yeah, don't waste your time, 100%. But I'm operating under a different assumption that they do still want to grade out Haener and they still want to grade out Rattler. So that's how I would do it. I would let Haener rip. I would allow Rattler to continue developing. I like Rattler more than Haener long term. If I was the GM, I would have my eggs in Rattler's basket. Pause. That was what the hell. But let me know what you think. And it is a complex situation, but just make sure you're not getting caught in that box score watching. Don't get caught up in that. Try and look at this from a different angle. All right, and I think if you do that, then you'll have it figured out. So let me know who you would start and why. Interesting. We'll see. We will learn quickly. And that answer will tell you the fate of these players. I mean, I'll go ahead and give you the answers to the test. If it's Spencer Rattler, they believe they have absolutely nothing in Jake Haener. If they go with Spencer Rattler, I mean, that is the ultimate sign of just nothing with Haener. If they go with Haener, that tells you that there's some interest in both. It tells you that they believe that both are still kind of competing for roster spots or competing for that backup spot or competing for whatever. So let's keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, playing each for a half is insane. That is absolutely bananas and pajamas. Would never happen. That is crazy as hell, and it's unfair to the rest of the players. Could you imagine telling Alvin Kamara, like, hey, man, come out here and play. Come get lit up. Come get 20 carries. Oh, actually, we're going to flip-flop the quarterback. So, lulz, we're just going to kind of experiment with this thing. LUL. Like, that would be so disrespectful to the rest of the team. If they played Haener one game, Rattler the other, Haener, that's a whole different story. But playing each for a half is insane. So, or planning to play each for a half, like it's a preseason game or something. That would be crazy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, get on down in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next